Hi, I'm Gina, International Neurodiversity Coach. Let's talk about pathological demand avoidance today. I know, you're like, really pathological? But yeah, let's dig into this. Got a great article I highly recommend you read. Here's a little bit of the cliff notes. So, pathological demand avoidance, often called PDA. I know that acronym can be used for a variety of things. Get over it, move on. Now, what you need to understand is that demand avoidance, which involves not being able to do certain things at a certain time, either for yourself or others, also refers to things we do in order to avoid certain demands. So pathological gets tacked onto that when it encompasses some unique aspects. So everyday demands, such as brushing your teeth, putting on your shoes, getting dressed, that can fall under that pathological demand avoidance. And there's an irrational quality to it. So seemingly dramatic reaction to tiny things. I had somebody explain that sometimes if their significant other walked in the room and just said, oh, I really appreciate you're doing the dishes, they were done. They literally stopped washing the dishes and walked out of the room. There was something about it that in that conversation, not rational, but slightly irrational, that when somebody noticed that they were doing these things, it all of a sudden felt like a demand and it was too much of a request on them. And they would wind up stopping what they were doing. It also comes at varying levels. So this is something that's fairly new that they're studying and finding words for and language around. It has been mostly studied in autistic people, but I can definitely tell you that it spreads across the neurodiversity palette. It is not just specific for them. I believe that those people diagnosed with autism, it is possibly more obvious for them on that spectrum levels of it. It can also present as an external thing. So where there are demands externally, it can also be an internal demand. Some of the things we expect of ourselves can definitely be part of that. It's indirect demands like time, plans, questions, and decisions that need to be made. It's also internal demands, right? So demands on our body, demands about food, thoughts, uncertainty, praise, the dish thing I was talking about earlier, transitions, expectations from other people or circumstances, sensory overload and sensory integration difficulties, other people's energy and presence. I have completely witnessed that and seen that happening for people. And things we even want to do, they can get hijacked and stolen by PDA. I highly recommend, if this is sounding interesting, to read more about it in my article, but also if you want to do a bunch of exploration on your own. There can also be demands within demands, and I should demands. I love that. I should do this, and then it slowly becomes a demand. I can struggle with that one in particular. I should, when I get up right away in the morning, go and work out. What happens is that I should feels like a demand far often than not. And then it doesn't happen. But I will be in the workout wear for hours and I will be ready to do it. And in my head, I'm like, I'm going to go down there and do it any minute now. But it doesn't happen. And after reading this, I went, oh, I move it into a demand. And thereby it's a should. And it feels like a demand. And then I'm fighting with it instead of being in ease and flow with it. And I am learning to shift that. And for me, luckily, it happens in language. And what I'm finding for a lot of my clients, it's possible to shift some of the language to release things from that power demand hold and to be in communication about when that happens for them. So oftentimes, some of the reactions you might see from people is refusing to do something, withdrawing entirely, shutting down, escaping physically. I have seen young kids get up and just walk away. And people are like, wow, what is that? You can't just do that. Well, sure they can. They just felt overloaded and as though there was this command demand of them. And it didn't work. They can also escape internally. I've definitely seen that and had clients that have worked with that. And then there's just flat out avoiding things, which we've talked about before. But this helps give a different perspective to it because not everything's avoided for the same reasons. Helpful approaches with this are one, addressing that it's a sensory issue and that this is happening. The other is helping to adjust the situation, finding out, exploring it a little deeper, like, wow, why did I feel that shift inside of me internally, like, and in my brain? Like, why did I feel that shift? Can I rescue it? Can we do this a little bit differently? And what would it take? How easy could that be? Also, giving plenty of notice to someone if you recognize that this is maybe going on with a loved one in your life or something like that, giving notice, giving time for them to adjust definitely can be helpful. And keeping and you often hear this, keeping some forms of predictable routines. It's part of the reasons people get an additional anxiety around so much change, is that all of a sudden that new change feels like new demands, and understanding that is not as easy as you would think. So there's a lot more to explore about this. I highly recommend you read the article, but I thank you so much for tuning in to at least learn this much. Nice work. Bye now.